This is Eric Sparks for OldFutures.com. Today I'm reviewing the classic 1960 sci-fi film, The Silent Star, as it was known in East Germany, or The First Spaceship on Venus, as it was known here in the US. I first got a hold of this movie in one of those, Z-grade sci-fi collections you can get for, 20 movies for 15 bucks or whatever it was. And the fact that it was with all of these other movies, most of which were really bad, and the fact that the print was just absolutely atrocious, it first made me dismiss it as, just another bad sci-fi movie. The second or third time I watched it, I realized there was some really impressive stuff in here. Some really good special effects, some really fantastic sets. The storyline was actually fairly good. When I did a little research into it, I discovered that the film was based off of a novel by Stanislaw Lem, who was a classic science fiction author of the time, and he wrote Solaris, which was made into a film by Andrei Tarkovsky and later by Steven Soderbergh. I eventually got a hold of the new print. It was a new DVD mastered off of a new print by First Features, and it was just a completely different experience because it actually had bright, vibrant colors. The print was nice, a little fuzzy, but seeing in the original German, and you saw some of the stuff that was cut out in the US version. It really opened my eyes to how good this movie truly is. The story starts out with the scientists looking back on the Tunguska event, which if you don't know what that was, in 1908 in Siberia, something hit, probably a comet or a meteor, in the middle of Siberia and caused this huge thermonuclear-sized fireball that flattened trees for 20 miles, and nobody knew what it was at the time. In this film, scientists come to the conclusion that the Tunguska event was actually an alien spaceship that exploded in Earth's atmosphere. Had some sort of catastrophe and it exploded. They eventually come to the conclusion that this spaceship must have come from Venus. How they do that is a little fuzzy, but anyway, they find this mysterious cylinder that has this mysterious message. They can't decipher it at first. They try to send messages to Venus to contact the Venusians, and they don't hear anything back, which is why the German title is The Silent Star. They had a mission that was ready to go to Mars, and they changed the destination, make it Venus instead, to try and contact their newly found neighbors, and they send this mission off. En route, they have the normal 50s and 60s, problems with asteroids. And once they get there, they find this post-apocalyptic world that has been devastated by some sort of nuclear catastrophe, and they discover that the reason the Venusians aren't responding is because there aren't any Venusians left. They utterly destroyed themselves. They also eventually discover that the Venusians had planned on attacking the Earth, and their atomic weapon somehow malfunctioned, and that was the cause of the nuclear catastrophe. The movie had a deliberately multinational cast, which is fairly rare for movies of the time, later echoed in things like Star Trek. There were Japanese, and what was really surprising was, even though it came from East Germany, behind the Iron Curtain, the crew featured an American scientist. That really surprised me. When the film was brought to the US, it had a few things edited out, most of which were references to Hiroshima. They wouldn't really offend anybody today. Basically, they were just saying that, in general, dropping a nuclear bomb on Hiroshima was a bad thing. And, of course, it was overdubbed with English-speaking voices. The sets are really fantastic. The Venusian landscape is really impressive and bleak and haunting. You really get this sense of this dead world that's been destroyed by this catastrophe. You know, strange mists floating by. The models and interiors are really, really fantastic. For 1960, I think they were the best special effects that were around then, and I don't think they were equaled until 1964's Robinson Crusoe on Mars. The story itself was mainly an anti-nuclear war message, which they're basically saying we should learn from the mistakes of the Venusians and not blow ourselves up through our lust for conquest. Definitely an apt message then, in the middle of the Cold War, and still continues to be a good message for us today. The movie may not be as well known as some of the other big 1960s sci-fi movies, but once I saw, you know, what the movie was originally intended to be like, and saw a nice print, and I really think this is one of the best 1960s science fiction films, especially one of the best space films of the 60s. And I think anyone who is a big fan of movies of the sci-fi movies of this period should pick it up. Definitely do yourself a favor and get the original German version from First Run Features, because it is light years ahead of any of the others that I've seen. I think you'll enjoy it. For OldFutures.com, I'm Eric Sparks.